Hey everyone, and welcome to today's webcast, Getting Started with Digital Preservation, a workshop brought to you by Library Journal and sponsored by Preservica. I'm Joshua Bean, webcast manager for Library Journal. We'll get started with today's presentation in just a moment. First, let's go over a little bit of housekeeping. Your screen is completely customizable, and you can resize any of the windows and move them around, so feel free to adjust them as needed to get the most out of your desktop space. If you accidentally close any of your windows, you can bring them back up by clicking on the appropriate widget down at the bottom of your screen. If you have any questions for our presenters during the webcast, you can submit those through the Q&A window at any time, and we'll address them at the end of the webcast. A copy of today's slide deck and some other resources are available in the resource list window, and you'll be able to download your continuing education certificate from the certification window once you've met the viewing requirements. You can tweet us about this event at Library Journal with the hashtag Preservica. And if you have any technical difficulties, you can click on the help widget where you can find the system requirements and FAQs. And if that doesn't resolve your issue, you can send me a note through the Q&A window. Okay, with all that out of the way, I'm going to hand things over to Katie Gambone with Preservica to get us started.
Great. Thank you, Joshua. Hello, and thank you to everyone joining us for today's webinar, Getting Started with Digital Preservation, a workshop. We are so pleased to be working with the Library Journal to bring you today's session, which we hope will be both informative and useful. I'd like to also thank Amazon Web Services, a sponsor of today's webinar. As a partner of AWS, Preservica leverages the flexibility, agility, and security that AWS offers for our customers' digital preservation initiatives. My name is Katie Gambone, and I'm moderating today's session. I am so pleased to be joined by my colleague, Aubrey Shanahan, who is the Preservica onboarding specialist. Before we dive into today's content, we want to wish everyone a happy Archives Month. Aubrey and I have both worked in archives and libraries ourselves, so we celebrate as members of the community. Pardon me. Preservica is also a proud member of the archives community, and as part of our company's Archive Month celebrations, we are hosting a month-long social media campaign asking you to tell us #what do you preserve. Today is also SAA's Ask an Archivist Day, so we hope after the session you'll join us on social media to tell us a bit about your work and to interview your colleagues. There's so much to celebrate. So, but while you're with us, we planned an exciting workshop for you. Today's session will last an hour. We'll begin by introducing you to our company, Preservica, and what it is we do to support digital preservation. We'll hear from a customer using Preservica's free starter edition to connect with their community. And from there, Aubrey will take us through a training to show you how quick and easy it is to get a digital collections program launched using Preservica Starter. We'll take a look at some new features that are coming, our community hub, and then we're going to open it up to you for Q&A. If you would like to start building and preserving your own digital collections after today's sessions, I would encourage you to sign up for a Preservica Starter account. As I mentioned, it's completely free, and it will give you a chance to practice everything you learned today on your own. You will also get access to Preservica's Community Hub, which has a ton of resources to help get you going. The link to sign up for Preservica Starter is available in the list of resources that Joshua mentioned earlier here in the webinar. There's also some helpful reading content linked in the resources. We will also be sure to send out the link to sign up for Preservica Starter after today's session. So with that, I will turn it over to my colleague, Aubrey. Take it away.
Hi, everyone. So I just want to briefly introduce myself. So my name's Aubrey Shanahan. I'm the onboarding specialist here at Preservica. I've been here just about 5 months, but my background is really in libraries and archives. That's where my heart is. I received my MLIS from Simmons University back in 2018, which is actually where I learned about Preservica for the first time. They had us train on the cloud edition for one of my courses. And I've worked at several archives and libraries since then. I know a lot of you folks here are public librarians, which is where I've spent the majority of my professional career so far. And it's a community I am very proud to be a part of. I love the work, and I want to thank all of you for your dedication and your hard work for your local communities. I know that you're invaluable resources, and I'm so glad that you're sharing your time with us today. It's my goal to make this as interesting and informative as possible for you all. Navigating archives and records management can be intimidating, but I hope that after today you'll feel more confident in managing those digital assets. So we have here on the screen Preservica's mission, which is really pretty simple. We're here to protect the world's cultural, economic, social, and political memory. Simple, but a big task. More and more digital assets are created each day. I know that all of your institutions are kind of cranking them out en masse, and so it can be overwhelming to deal with, but it is important to kind of acknowledge those assets and take care of them properly. So Preservica has been in digital preservation for over a decade. It started as a project with the UK National Archives, and today there are offices in Boston in the US and Oxford in the UK, and we are helping thousands of organizations protect millions of unique digital assets. I'm going to just go off camera now real quick. All right. So I'm sure many of you are working in institutions where you have, messy OneDrives, messy local drives, and or SharePoints, and sometimes all of the above. I personally have worked at institutions where we've had all three of those things, and it can get a little bit hectic and crazy in terms of keeping track of those digital records. Legacy information is sometimes really difficult to find, and older files especially are prone to data degradation, which means over time they lose their integrity and can become unreadable or unviewable. I remember having to reinvent the wheel a couple of times in my libraries where things had already been worked on, but that document was somewhere on the S drive, but no one can find it now. Or that document's there and we can see it, but we can't actually read it. So that's why digital preservation is so important. And up until now, it's been pretty complex to do. But you have these records that are really important: strategic plans, meeting minutes for the board and committees. You have incident logs, programming materials, event photographs, all of those things that make up your library's records and history, and they need to be taken care of long term. Not to mention that many of you with us today are also tasked with special collections and genealogy, which you have departmental records, and then you have the large chunk of community records that you have to take care of. It's a big task to do, and following preservation best practices within that can be very difficult. A trusted digital repository, which is kind of the system you're seeing here on the screen, is also known as an OAIS, or an Open Archival Information System. And this has standards to ensure that digital materials are properly preserved and protected. Managing the system on your own, again, or through open source solutions, it requires a lot of staff time and technical knowledge that can make it really difficult or impossible to implement. But you can see here in this trusted digital preservation repository, you're going to have your file formats. A typical OAIS has to have a way to acquire those and ingest them into the system, which then goes through and organizes that information. It allows for automated file format recycling, which what we mean by that is taking those original files and reproducing copies of that file, keeping the original, of course, but reproducing the file so that you have readable formats. So a good example of that is like a WordPerfect file. You can't really read that now, but if you were to ingest it into the system, it could reproduce, say, an ODT or a PDF that would be readable. And then the third component there is safe and intelligent storage, which we use through AWS on Starter. It's reliable, it's saving multiple copies of your items so that it's backed up. And the final part there is secure access. So that's a big part of what you do as libraries. You want to make sure that you're getting those informational assets out to the community. And so having a secure way to share those assets is really important as well. So again, all of this, if you were to do it on your own kind of piecemeal, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, and it can be difficult or near impossible. So enter Preservica. We are an ISO, which is International Standards Organization compliant OAIS, which again is Open Archival Information System. And we're dedicated to keeping your assets safe and readable, as well as helping you share them with your community. The thing that really sets us apart from other data and content management systems out there that you might be using is that we're performing that active digital preservation for your assets. So upon ingest, the system will verify data integrity of your files. It will detect any corruption that's going on. It will check for viruses. And most importantly, it will create copies of the file in current formats. Again, an example is that WordPerfect file. If you try to open that on your computer, it tries to take you to the App Store to bring something up to read that file, but you can't do it. But if you upload the file into Preservica, it can be displayed in a readable format and you can gain access to that data again. I hate to think of all the files that maybe were discarded because they weren't readable, and there is a way to save those files and to read them now. And all of this is happening for you seamlessly behind the scenes. My colleague Katie here recently summed all this up very well in an article that she helped write for a CIO. And she said, simply put, digital preservation is different from archival methods that just store the data safely. Active digital preservation brings information forward over time, moving files from old formats to current formats, ensuring it remains readable. Digital preservation systems ensure nothing is lost during transitions through fidelity and fixity of data conversion, and keeps all the original files alongside a full audit trail of preservation actions. And you'll get to see a lot of this in action today in the demo. But first, we wanted to share a little bit more information about our current community. So we have a growing community of academic and public libraries using Preservica, either in Starter or in our cloud editions. And so we have the New York Public Library, Yale, Johns Hopkins, just to name a few of those on there. My alma mater, Simmons, is on there as well. And we do also work with half of the state archives, a little over half. We have 26 currently. And we do have some county customers and city and town customers as well. So how did all this come about? Starter was the fruit of years of collaborating with archivists and records managers. We heard from a lot of them that they needed a system that's easy to use and affordable so that you can preserve those most valuable assets and make a case for digital preservation for your stakeholders and showcase your archive to donors, students, and the public, whatever that community may be. It was co-designed with that group of archivists who reviewed the product in the early stages and provided valuable feedback. Since our global launch in 2020, nearly 3,000 new users have signed up from over 100 countries across the globe. Libraries, archivists, archives, records management professionals in colleges, universities, religious organizations, historical societies, government, and even the corporate sector all over the world use Starter and feel a part of this growing community of like-minded professionals. And there's something not showing up on the slide here, sorry. But we have a quote from Joan Kerbow from Buena Vista University, where she talks about how exciting it is for such a small repository to be using best practices for digital preservation. And she's able to use that, again, to leverage with stakeholders across the university. So it's a really positive, exciting thing to be able to offer this free technology for any repository of any size to kind of at least get you started. And we'll hear now from Shelby Owings, who is the Genealogy and History Librarian at Perry Cook Memorial Public Library. And she'll talk a little bit about how she began working with Starter and why it's so valuable to her.
My name is Shelby Owings, and I am the Genealogy and History Librarian at Perry Cook Memorial Public Library in Mount Gilead, Ohio. And we have been using Preservica for our community heritage collection for a few months now. I personally have used it previous to this collection as a student to get my Master of Library and Information Science, and that is why we chose it, because I was familiar with it and I really enjoyed using it in school. With Preservica, it absolutely is affordable. The starter version doesn't cost anything, and you have 5 gigs to use, which is quite a lot. I have nearly 250 assets in our collection, and we haven't even scratched the surface of our 5 gigs. So you can do quite a lot for free without ever having to approach your board or your patrons and ask for money, which I think is really wonderful. This is near and dear to my heart because as a public library, we are storehouses of information, yes. It's our job to keep it safe and, have it for generations, but it's more than that. Having it in a box is fine, but until you can actually make it available to people and get it into the hands of people who need it and want it, the information sitting around, it doesn't do any good. So I feel like having Preservica and having, this relatively cheap and easy option to digitize is just helps a public librarian with their mandate, to give the information to everybody. I love the way the metadata is set up in Preservica because it is easy. We use Dublin Core for our metadata, and it can get really intense if you look in the Dublin Core website. And it's hard sometimes to know what fields to use and things like that. And Preservica has made it super easy. They've given you fields that you can fill in, and you can then search for any of those, anything that you put in those fields is then searchable in your public form. My advice is you just need to start doing it. And you don't have to have anything, special equipment or anything like that. I started the Community Heritage Collection with my 2-year-old laptop and my iPhone and Preservica Starter. And it's grown since then, but, that's because as things have gone on, my director has said, oh, well, do you need some scanning equipment? Sure, we can get you some scanning equipment. And that only became available because she saw the value of what Preservica was giving us for our collection.
Okay, and many thanks to Shelby Owings for that little demonstration of her experience with Starter. So now we're going to go ahead and jump into the demo. So I do want to say, just again, if you've already signed up for Starter, feel free to follow along and try out some of the features for yourself. Maybe the What Do You Preserve campaign that Katie referenced at the beginning sparked an idea of a file or two you could upload. If not, that's totally okay. You can sign up whenever you're ready to at any time at starter.preservica.com. And I will go ahead and get my screen sharing. All right, so this is the main website that you'll see. You can do the Start Now for free up here, and I'm going to go ahead and log in. One of the nicest things about Starter and about Preservica in general is that you can just do this on a browser. There's no need to download anything. You can ingest and manage your files all through the browser. So I'll go ahead and log in. All right, and here we are. So welcome to Starter. This is the Explorer, this page up here. And this is what you'll see every time you log in. You're going to find your top level collections, any individual assets that you may have as well. Along the top, you have your search bar. You have a link to our community hub, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. We have the upload and preserve window, which this will pop up automatically upon ingest. You'll see that. And then you can access your user settings up here as well. Here you can figure out how to sort your assets. If you want to do it by ingest date, you can do that. If you want it by title, you can do file size as well. You can also change how you're viewing your assets. So you can view them, here they're cards, you can view them as a list, which just gives a little bit more information on the folders. So you can see the ingest date on them, what the type is, and it'll give you a little bit more information there as well. I like to view them as cards because it's nice and easy. The thumbnails are large, so you can kind of get to your collections really quick. And the thumbnails are something you can change too. If you have a collection uploaded, you can always right-click on it and upload a new thumbnail for it so that you have it nice and organized just the way you want it. So the last feature over here is the Add button. So that's going to be your main point of ingest. So you can add single files or zip folders. You can upload a folder together. You can create a new folder, or you can upload a folder that includes metadata using one of the templates. And so we'll go into a little bit of detail about all of these individually. In the top left corner, you can find the menu. You can collapse this as needed if you don't want it, if it's getting in your way. But this is going to show you that folder structure as well as the recycling bin. So you can use the recycling bin here. You can empty it, and you can see any assets that are in there. They're going to stay in there for 90 days if you send something to the recycle bin. So it won't automatically delete. If you do want to get rid of it, you can click that empty button and it will permanently delete the files. Also over here, you have your dashboard. So this is going to show you some more detailed up-to-the-minute information about your collection. So you can see how much storage is being used, your login information. You can view the resource library and another button for your portal over here as well. And then it'll also show you the different formats in here that you have in your collection. So I mostly have photos in mine, but it'll give you information about how many of each file type you have in there. And then the last thing is the portal access. So my portal is customized, which is a Starter Plus feature. But every Starter account has full access to a public portal. It was actually the one that Shelby showed in the video. That's a free version of the portal. My version is actually a little bit of a sneak peek. we will be upgrading the portal to have this new look and feel, and it will also add advanced search capability, and that's coming a little bit later this year. But we will come back to this and talk a little bit more about public access. All right, so back to the Explorer. This is where you're going to be spending most of your time working with collections and metadata. And I want to show you a couple of things here. We'll do a simple ingest first, and I've kind of created a file for that here, or a folder for that here. And we're going to pull up a WordPerfect file, and I am just going to drag and drop in here. It's that simple. And so it's doing the upload, and it's going to move over to preserving. So this is all of that advanced, technical features that we talked about. The actual digital preservation is happening right here. So it's going through fixity checks, checksums, virus checks. They're all taking place right here, checking your duplicates. And it's happening so fast. It's stuff that if you had to do it manually, it would take a long time. So now it's finished with that. There are going to be a few things happening behind the scenes still. But you can see, so this is a WordPerfect file. I would not be able to open this on my computer, but now that it's uploaded, we can click on it. And we can see that we can access it. So now this file that wasn't readable before is readable. And you can see it will generate a thumbnail here as well. Again, you can change that if you don't like what it comes up with. But you can take a look, metadata here, if you wanted to add metadata on an individual level. You could choose Dublin Core or mods, and you can add that. You can also see the preservation history. So this is still working in the background to kind of create another original copy that's in a readable format. But it does save your true original here. This is the WordPerfect file that I uploaded. And if we were to go ahead and make this, close out this. If we were to go ahead and make this public, we can take a look at the preservation history again. It's going to take a second for it to go through. And it's probably a little slower because I imagine some of you are actually looking through and working on Starter yourselves. So it's probably a little congested. Here we go. So you can see information here that we've transformed it into the ODT. This is what I was talking about earlier. It changes it into a readable current format. And it will, in a moment, it will create an additional access representation in PDF format. So once that's created, that's how it's going to be viewable for the public, because the ODT is great for preservation and it's a current format, but the PDF is going to be better for accessibility and viewing in a browser. So that's what you'll see in the portal. And again, all of this happens so fast, and it's something that would have taken a lot of time, and especially just for one object, it's a lot of work. So it's really great to be able to just get in and ingest very quickly. All right, so I would also like to show you a bulk metadata upload very quickly. So I've pre-prepared a metadata file that is in a folder with assets. So you can see this is my asset folder here. It's got a bunch of pictures of pets in it, because what better reason to preserve something than if you have beloved pets? So I have in here the CSV file that I have pre-filled, and you get this on Starter from clicking Add and going to the templates. And so I clicked on Download Dublin Core Template, and I downloaded it and I filled it in for my particular assets. One thing that's important to note here is that the file names need to match exactly, including the file type. That's how we're connecting the metadata to them in the system. So it's really important that you have that bit perfect. So once this is all ready and you've added it to that file with the assets in it, so it's all together in one folder, you can go ahead and you'll click on Upload a folder with metadata using one of the templates. I'll click on the folder, I will upload, and it's going to go ahead. This one will probably take a little bit longer because it's quite a few images. And again, it's running a little bit slower than normal, I imagine because of the extra traffic. But there we go. So it started the upload. It's going to ask you about the metadata file. So you want to say it's this CSV that's in there. You want to select the metadata that you're using, which I chose Dublin Core again. And it's a comma delineated. So it's this comma option here. It's the CSV. And go ahead and click Complete Ingest. This you can ignore. It's going to pop up and say that there's files associated with without associated file names. It's just the folder level, so you can ignore that and continue the ingest. If you had that pop up and there were other file names on there that had errors, you would want to pay close attention to that. But that's just the folder level, so we're good to go. And once again, it's going through those preservation actions for you. It's going to check for the integrity of all of those items and the formats. Sorry about that. Okay, so then it is completed, and you can see now that it is popped up as a folder here. And so it's going to have those thumbnails populated really quick. And now you can click on an individual item, and that metadata is already populated in there. So it makes it super easy if you have a large batch of items that you're looking to ingest and you don't want to have to go in individually to add metadata. You can do it this way. And there are ways to, export metadata from other sources so that you can kind of copy and paste them into the CSV. It just makes it really simple to add a lot of that important record information quickly. All right, and so one of the things I'd like to note too, along with metadata, is with Starter Plus, you can actually right-click on here and you can do bulk metadata editing. So I already have a template. If I wanted to go ahead and edit that, I could go in, I can update, replace, or clear metadata, and you can pick the files and do it that way. But again, that's a Starter Plus feature, but I did want to note it because it is pretty useful if you had an error or something that popped up and you realized, oh, we didn't put the date in for any of these. You can go ahead and edit it that way. It makes it quick and simple. So the next step we will go through is to make these viewable on the public portal. So we'll go ahead and right click again, and we'll do it on the folder level, because if you do items individually, they will show up on the portal, but without the parent folder there, they're not going to be immediately visible. You can search them, but they're not going to be visible. So we'll do it on this folder level. And it's just going to take a moment. But you'll see it does have this icon, and 2 other folders have the icon as well. That means that it is a public asset or folder. So you want to drill down when you make something public and make sure that all the assets that are in there that you want public have that icon over them as well. But those are now going to be visible on the portal. So again, we can go ahead and access that from the side over here. Or you can also go to individual assets to see them in the public portal as well. But for now, we'll just go to the main page. All right, so now you can see that this has been added and is now visible to the public. And you can click on the assets in here. They're going to have the they're going to have all the metadata information in here, and you're going to be able to actually look at the individual images. You can kind of play around with them. You can zoom in, you can download them and share them. Again, I am in a beta portal, so it's not quite the same as what you'll see, but it is a really nice, it's a nice interface. It's easy to use, and it brings your assets to your community, which is the most important part. And there's a lot that you can do with this portal. For example, Multnomah County, while they are a cloud customer, you could do this with a starter portal as well. They have a game set up for both county employees and the public, where they actually share images from their portal, and they have folks guess trivia about those assets. And it's just a fun way to get everyone involved and caring about the work that you're doing. I know that in my city, I feel like for our library, people would have jumped on that. I don't know how active your city employees are, but I thought it was a really fun way to kind of share that resource and to get those assets further out to other individuals.
Aubrey?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Aubrey, hi, it's Katie. Sorry to interrupt you. We are going to leave the majority of questions to the end, but one came in that I thought might be helpful to answer here. So the question is, can you have folders within folders for additional organization of files?
Yes, you can have folders within folders. You can kind of create whatever folder structure you need. And you'll see that reflected over here on the left-hand side when you're looking at the top-level collections. You can kind of open them with this plus button, and if you had additional folders, you could drill down into those as well over here. That is a great question. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And so the other thing I really wanted to highlight here that I think is important is the Community Hub. It is a really great resource for users at all levels. So you can click here for the Community Hub, and that'll bring up the main page. This is without being logged in, but you can find our knowledge base. You can go to community groups, ask questions, product ideas, how-to guides. It's all in here. We do product release notes here, and we also keep you up to date with any events that are going on as well. So it's a really great place to go if you are curious. You can, without even signing up, you can go to starter editions and kind of look at the topics that people have, any errors that are coming up for other people. It's a great resource to kind of see what's going on and troubleshoot and just broaden the conversation around digital preservation. So again, that's a fantastic resource that you can access right from within Starter. All right, so that wraps up the majority of the demo. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. So I did want to talk a little bit about the new features that are coming soon. So we have I would say the most exciting thing is probably our remote contributors or content submissions management. So we are going to have the opportunity, it's going to be probably later this year, where you will be able to invite students, researchers, other organizations, community members to donate Born Digital or digitized materials to your collection directly. So you can add these valuable contributions to your collections. You won't have to miss out on any donations of historical or cultural value. You can invite donors directly into the area where they can deposit their donations. This will also make it much easier to manage periodic donations of records, as it's a very easy and direct way to receive those assets. So really quickly, I'll just walk through how to invite users to contribute, to receive and review the content, and to publish it on the Access portal and make it accessible. So we'll illustrate this with a simple use case here. I'll forward a couple slides. So Sam Black is a digital archivist at Amal University, and he needs all the graduating students to upload a copy of their thesis to the archive as a permanent record. He wants to invite Sally, a recent graduate student, to submit her thesis for safekeeping. So he's going to go ahead and do that, and we'll have a short video walkthrough here. Okay, so we can see he's logged into Starter and is going to go ahead and enter some information to kind of get that submission portal set up. So it's going to include the repository name and the individual name. And you can preview all of these things as you go along to make sure they look good. And again, this is for the submission area. So this is going to have a heading, an introduction, and you can include your terms and conditions. It's going to show our terms and conditions, but you can include your repository terms and conditions there. And once again, it's going to save and preview. Okay, and so now he's going to work on getting a submission from a student. So he's going to invite submissions, enter the email address or addresses that you are looking for, including the message of what you need, and send the invitation. And so that's going to send an email with a temporary link to Sally. In this case, you chose to have a 7-day submission window. So she's going to receive that. Go straight to her email. She can click on the link. And now she's in that submission area that Sam created. So she can go ahead and add her information here. And then upload those assets. And so this is essentially putting these assets, it's uploading them to your system in kind of a holding area. So it is an actual ingest that's being performed. It is being preserved as it is uploaded. Okay, so now she's submitted, and Sam will get a notification that it's been submitted, and he will be able to review, accept, or reject the submission. So let's say that Sally maybe included some extra materials that he doesn't need. He can select the materials that he is interested in and save those, and it can discard the rest. And again, you can choose the file where you want to store that. So you can have a specific file for submissions. And that's going to add that to your folder structure that we were just looking at within Starter. Or if you didn't want the items that were submitted, you can just delete them, and that will take them out of your archive. And again, they'll probably go to the recycle bin, which you can empty yourself manually, or they'll be deleted after 90 days. So now he can add or remove metadata and choose if he wants to make the submission public. So there's the submission. You can see, again, the folder structure to the left there. And he can choose, he's choosing Dublin Core to add metadata to the object. And he can go ahead and make all or part of this thesis available to the public. So again, you can see those icons pop up when it is a public asset. And you can click on the individual asset and then view it in the public portal. So you can see all the information there. It's got the metadata that he added, and it is something that you can share or download from the public portal. So of course, there's a lot of other applications for remote contributors other than just academic. You can use it for genealogy projects, for community archives. Those kinds of projects are gaining in popularity. I'm sure you're seeing that. And you can utilize this technology to take submissions right from the community members, which cuts down on the time and effort you're spending on tracking down individuals and handling their submissions in person. And that's going to be available later this year, and we cannot wait to see how you use it. And finally, I did want to touch on a release that's coming probably next year. It is kind of our new generation of digital preservation in Preservica Professional Edition. So you can start your digital preservation journey today for free, but here for if you're looking for a little bit more flexibility, if you're looking for an enhanced access and discovery, customizable user permissions, you can add capacity, and I think importantly you can add and edit metadata in a custom way, so you don't have to follow necessarily the Dublin Core or mods. So again, if you're looking for that higher level of digital preservation, we are going to have professional coming soon. All right, so I want to just say again, start your journey today. You can sign up for Starter, you can get in, you can start uploading your files immediately. You could do it right now. And I think that's one of the greatest benefits of this product. I wouldn't be here as a former librarian and archivist if I didn't really believe in the value of Starter and Starter Plus. Even on a personal level, I found that it's the perfect way to store my family history genealogy projects, my photography, and of course, as I showed you, my pets. I believe that you'll see that same value that I have, both as an individual and as an institution. And this is a way to really show your stakeholders the importance of preserving those items that you have, those, again, the strategic plans, the legacy information for your library, that you're going to lose a lot if you lose it to file degradation. And this is going to be the best way for you to show your stakeholders, hey, we can do this, and it's easy and it's free or affordable for us to do, and it's definitely scalable too. So if you want more space, we can work with you and get you more space. There's different levels for any size repository, and feel free to join the community hub as well. As we talked about, that's a great resource to kind of see how others have been using it, see any problems that are coming up. We're very open about that kind of thing. We want to hear your feedback, and we want to work with you to make this the best product possible for you. So we really value our users' input and feedback, and we do our best to make Starter the best product it can be. So with that, I will turn it over and see if we have any questions.
Great. Aubrey, I just want to say that was fantastic. I really learned a lot, and I hope that our attendees did as well. So before we start the Q&A, I just want to, again, say a huge thank you to Library Journal for allowing Preservica to offer today's session. We really enjoy connecting with the community, and this has been great. Also, a huge thank you to our partner, AWS, for both hosting Preservica customer content and also for helping to sponsor today's workshop. So we have a ton of great questions that have been coming in, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started. Aubrey, I hope you're unmuted because I am going to need your help with these. So let's get started with the first one, which is, what types of things do you preserve? And maybe I can take a stab at that, and then Aubrey, fill in where I might miss. But we preserve thousands of types of file types. So really anything you can throw at us, we're likely able to preserve. So probably some of our most common content types, both digitized files and or born digital files, include JPEGs, PDFs, any AV file formats we can support, but there really are just so many. Aubrey, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I would just say, we support well over 2,000 file formats, and I believe our users are only using something around like 1,400 or 1,500 of those. So it's kind of like, try us. We would love to find something that we can't handle, and we would love to tackle it with you. So.
Yes, and to add to that, we're always adding to our capabilities because the formats that come out will continue to evolve. And so we stay on top of that and we'll continue to add to our capabilities as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next question. Will we be able to sign up for the Preservica starter account at a later time? Yes, absolutely. That resource is always available there to you. And you'll receive a link in a follow-up email to today's webinar. Next one, can you set a personalized URL for the portal? Aubrey,
So
you want to
that
take
is
that
going
one?
to come, yeah, that is going to come at the Starter Plus level, but we do have that capability. And we do have, if you're interested in Starter Plus, if you go to starter.preservica.com, you can kind of find some more info about the pricing on that. And some of the other features that come along with Starter Plus, like additional users, the bulk metadata editing that I mentioned. You can also get Google Analytics with that as well. So I would definitely recommend taking a look at that link. And if you have any questions or are interested in Starter Plus, feel free to email me. We'll have our contact info up at the end.
That's right. A great question about access control. So can portal access be controlled? i.e. accessible to members of an organization instead of being on a public site?
So as of right now, we don't have that capability in Starter or Starter Plus. It is something that I recognize as being really important, and it is a feature that we are discussing. So that's one of the things that I do love about this product is when something like that comes up, which it has for some of our users, we take it right to our team and we start working on, is this something that multiple users are going to need, and if so, yeah, let's figure out a way to make it work. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, but we're always open to those suggestions.
Okay. When you have an older file, format file that is viewable as a PDF, is it OCR enabled?
So we support documents that are uploaded with OCR. We don't have the OCR capability in Starter or Starter Plus. That comes with much later editions, the integrated OCR. But you can use, there are resources out there, and you can contact me if you want some help with this. There are resources to do OCR on your PDFs that are free or very low cost. So there's ways to do that. But yes, if you upload an OCR PDF into Starter, you are able to fully search that document, which is really great.
Great. When you're ingesting multiple files, Aubrey, you had showed the audience a template. Our questioner asked, can you go over that again? And I'm wondering if maybe that's a template we could share as part of our follow-up communication as well.
Yeah, I would say too, we also have Paul Clark, who does trainings for us. He has done an excellent video on the bulk metadata upload. So it goes a little bit more in depth than I was able to today, and kind of takes you step by step. And that's part of our resources. You can find that on the Community Hub, and we can share that out to you as well.
Great. And actually, this is another question that I'm wondering if we may have some existing training on already. So this person shared, I have no experience with archives or preservation. Can you explain Dublin Core and mods and why they are important? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So something I am currently working on is actually a training just on this specific topic, on the very, very basics of digital preservation. I can say super briefly, so Dublin Core and mods are kind of, if you're in libraries, maybe you're familiar with the MARC records for your items in the library. So it's just those, the details that are going to be attached to the item that tell us more about it and that make it searchable. So if you have an item in there and there's no metadata attached to it, there's not a way to find it unless you know where it is in the file. Whereas if you have metadata attached to it, so Dublin Core or mods are standards of metadata, if you have that information attached to it, so the creator, the dates, that kind of thing, it makes it so that you can much more easily find that item that you're looking for. And it makes it so that that's discoverable throughout generations, so that you're not losing that information along the line. People can always search for the terms related to it and they can find it. So it's really about searchability and discoverability, and about keeping with the provenance of the record, so that you know where it came from, what it's about, all that good stuff.
Excellent. We have two people who asked this question, which is around downloading images from the portal, and just wondering whether or not there's a way to block that function.
Yeah, so I think that kind of goes along with the other feature that we talked about in terms of preventing, you know, certain people from seeing parts of your portal. Currently, there's not a way to do that, but it is something that is, you know, it's been discussed, and I think it would be a really great feature to add. So that is definitely in our discussion.
Okay. Another good one. Is there a maximum size file that you can upload?
So there are limits in terms of like how much you can upload at once, but you're probably not going to reach those limits. I would say if you're trying to upload, like, say, more than like 2 gigs at one time, it might be a little slower, and it might take some more time. So I would say, you know, try to manage how much you're uploading at once, but I'm not really 100% sure, and Mike maybe would be able to provide a little bit more on the specific file sizes limits. But yeah, if you can keep it a little bit on the lower side, I think that's probably for the best, just for time's sake. Yeah.
Okay.
And I will note too, the starter comes with 5 gigs. So, you know, if you're in the free version, you know, hopefully you're not uploading something of that size. It's going to be the only thing that fits in there. So there is that limitation to consider as well.
Great. Is Preservica a good resource for long-term preservation and sustainability? I can say yes. The system is designed just for that purpose. And we do have, if you go to preservica.com and look through some of our resources, we actually have a sustainability paper that we recently published, which goes into a lot more detail, and I encourage you to visit the website and review that.
Yeah, and the charter that put that together is really active still as well. They're constantly reviewing our procedures around sustainability, which is really great too. And I will also note too, something I meant to say earlier, your data that you're putting in this is yours 100%. So if anything, God forbid, ever did happen to Preservica, or if you just decided you didn't want to be a part of it anymore, you are welcome to get that information back at any time.
Great. The questions are continuing to fly in here, which is so exciting to see. We only have about 2 minutes left, so I'm just going to go through just another 2 or 3 questions, and then the questions we're not able to answer, we are happy to, we'll do a full listing of the Q&A from today's session and make sure that gets out to all of today's attendees. So I'm sorry if we're not able to answer your question during the time slot, but we'll get through as many as we can here. So once something has been added, can parts be redacted? For example, if a student submits a nursing thesis and one of the tables has patient information, can that information be removed after the paper was uploaded?
So I would say if you uploaded something like that and you noticed that we don't have a feature within the product that would allow you to change that, but you can always, you know, take it down and do that redaction yourself, and then re-upload the item. But there's not anything specifically in Starter that would allow you to redact in a document.
Mm-hmm. Another question, do the records have a persistent URL in the portal?
Yes, they do. So if you link to an asset, it's going to link to that specific asset.
Great. Can you upload full text things and video, or just single documents or pictures?
No, you can upload. Really, again, the sky's the limit for what you can upload. With Preservica, you can do, you know, multiple asset folders with different file types within them. There's a lot of flexibility there in terms of what you can upload.
Okay. And let's make this the last question. Is video and audio streaming available?
Yes. So when you upload audio files or MP4s, you can view the videos, you can listen to the audio. It's all going to be there and accessible if you want to share it on the public portal. And it is available on the back end too, of course.
Okay, great. We have about 10 more questions that are listed. This has just been so great. And again, we're going to go through and make sure all of the questions are answered and send that out as a follow-up communication. But it's great to see you all are so interested in the topic. So thank you for submitting those. I know we're at time, so I will turn it back over. Well, before I turn it over to Joshua, let me just say again, a huge thank you to everybody who joined us, to Aubrey, Library Journal, AWS. I think this was a really fantastic session. If you are interested in working with digital preservation, again, yes, you can sign up for Preservica Starter at any time. Aubrey's a resource, the Community Hub's a resource. There's a really dedicated team behind this. So we will be sure to work with you on this. So with that, actually, Aubrey, anything you want to add before we turn it over to Joshua to close us out?
No, I want to say thank you to everyone. Again, I love public libraries. I love the work that you do. And I really think that this is a valuable thing to be considering in the public library space, not just in special collections, but across the board. So I'm really excited to see so many of you here today and asking questions. And again, if you need anything, feel free to email me at aubrey.shanahan@preservica.com.
Great. Thank you. And Joshua, with that, we'll turn it back over to you.
All right, awesome. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Aubrey. So thanks everyone for attending today. Just a reminder, you can watch our webcast on demand. So this webcast will be available tomorrow. We'll send you an email tomorrow afternoon letting you know when the recording is available to watch. And you can watch this webcast and all of our archive and our upcoming webcasts you can find those in the events and professional development section at libraryjournal.com. And with that, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Take care. Bye.